to spend more in a year and a half. It's going to take them 10 years to cut that amount. Plus, they're not cutting it out of they're not cutting their spending. All they're going to do is reduce the increases that they're going to have in spending. And that's where Americans need to wake up, and they need to do something to get these guys to pass a balanced budget amendment, because bottom line, Washington's Washington, and they're going to spend us into the grave.
Hey, Jim, on our topics that I gave you, the first sentences, do we have a debt crisis deal yet? Question mark. The reason I started it out, this has been talked about and going on since the beginning of May, and now here we are, less than 48 hours away, and we're still him-hawing, bickering back and forth, figuring if we're going to have enough votes to pass this thing. Even if we do pass this thing, which I sure hope they do, I still think the other foot's going to hit, and that's going to be when they drop our rating. And I still think that's a very big possibility that happen from AAA to AA. And if that happens, I think it's going to cost people a lot of money.
You know, let's look at this. By the way, if you want to chime in on this, Stephen and Don want your comments at 219-845-1100. Well, let's break this apart. On this debt rating. And this is just, I know a lot of people don't really understand even if it's important, but it is important, because your debt rating, when you go to get even a credit card, you get put in different classes, and the better class you are, the lower rating you have. And if you're in the upper, the bad class or whatever, you're paying 30% on your credit card.
That's right.
That's what you're doing. And because you have missed some debts or paid, haven't paid some things. So it basically works the same way for the country. But as far as I understand, in reading the Moody's report on this, was that it wasn't just that we agreed to continue to pay our bills. They were talking about $4 to $5 trillion of cuts to maintain that
AAA rating.
That rating, and it doesn't look like this agreement has that.
No,
so,
and the point of it was that it's always been based on our spending, and they said that we're as a consumer, if you overspend your budget over and over and over, your rating's going to drop, and that's the problem with our country. They just keep spending and spending and spending.
Sorry, Don. Getting back to that debt rating, people will say, "Well, I don't have a credit card and I don't have that." It's still going to affect them. What I heard yesterday is that as soon as the rating is dropped, the interest rates will rise, and that is around the board, and that includes price on commodities. So that means oil is going to increase, corn is going to increase, milk is going to increase. And that is everything.
498-445-1100. We will open up the phone lines right now. Hey, Joe.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Joe.
Hey, listen, Don, and your group there said it the best. It's one joke, and I think that kind of sums it all up there. And I kind of call it a three-ring circus there, with Obama being the head ringmaster there. It is just too bad. And correct me if I'm wrong, Don, but weren't the Democrats in power for 2.5 years where they had control of all three branches, and they could have passed anything that they wanted? In fact, they could have raised the debt ceiling to $20 trillion.
That's right.
Well, look at the stimulus package and look at the health care plan. How much compromise was in those two plans? In fact, I think the Speaker of the House said, "Hey, we've got to sign it and pass it. Then let's read it and figure out what it is."
Hey, Joe, in the last few months, the Republicans have presented 3 different budgets.
Yeah.
The Democrats and the President have produced none.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're complaining about, well, let them put something on the paper and show the American people what they're willing to do.
He wouldn't put anything in print there. They sent over a fantastic, they want to blame the Republicans. They sent over a great bill. What was it called? Cut, Cap, and Balance. And Reed immediately says, he tabled it. He wouldn't even read it there.
Right.
Isn't that sad?
Joe, I'll tell you something.
And he wouldn't put up for a vote. Go ahead, Don.
I think Republicans have a good blame to share in here too. I mean, they're not doing for America, and I'm tired of these politicians that go there. They vote what the party says. They don't vote what their conscience is. They don't vote what the people that send them there want them to do. And it doesn't matter what party they're in. But the point of it is they're not doing what's right. And they're going there and they're playing their games. They're getting rich. They've got their own perks, their own plans. And in America, people are asleep. They keep sending these same people back, and they keep doing the same thing. But until they get a balanced budget amendment in, where our government has to balance their budget every year, like you and I do, then this will never be resolved. They're always
Don,
they're spending.
we're seeing Obama destroying this country right before our eyes, and you're right. The people don't care.
I know it. It's
Right now,
Okay,
the phone lines
thanks.
are open
Thanks
at
a lot.
219-845-1100. You know, can I shift it a little bit here?
Sure.
Stephen always puts together something and hands it to me on the way in. It
Jobs?
Yeah, about the jobs. And I'll just read it real quick. Hundreds of job opening listings posted on Monster.com and other job sites explicitly state that the people who are unemployed would be less attractive applicants, with some telling the long-term unemployed to not even bother applying. Now, New York Times' Catherine Rampel said she found preferences for the already employed or only recently laid off in listings. Even the massive University of Phoenix stated that preference, but removed the listings when the Times started asking questions. Legal experts said that explicitly barring unemployed people from applying does not qualify under the definition of discrimination. But the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission recently set out to establish whether employees were discriminating against certain protected groups because they are overrepresented. Even if the practice of weeding out unemployed applicants doesn't fit the legal definition of discrimination, it sure feels unfair for the more than 6.3 million Americans who have been out of work for more than 6 months. It's unfair to that they be told they are automatically disqualified for the few openings that are out there. Stephen, what do you think?
Oh, I think that's terrible to do something like that. But at the other side, it's the businessman, businesswoman's prerogative, whoever they want to hire. But stating something like that for the public to read, I think that's terrible. If that's the practice they want to follow, then you use that practice in-house, let the people apply, let them do what they're supposed to do, interview, whatever, but don't come out ahead of time and say, well, you've been unemployed for so long, we don't even want you to fill out an application, we're not even going to waste our time to talk to you. I think that's a bunch of junk.
What do you think, Don?
You know, our country's got, you know, they always talk about an economic supply and demand side. Well, our country's got a problem right now with supply and demand. We don't have enough jobs for the demand. There's more people unemployed than there are jobs. Now, where is there any effort put in trying to resolve the issue of what's going to cause individuals to go at risk, put their money at risk, open up companies, and offer jobs to people? There's where I think the problem really lies. And I think all this is doing is just indicating truly what the need is out there in our country for jobs. And I think that the unemployment figures, when they keep saying, you know, all these new applicants for unemployment, it doesn't nowhere near state how many people are truly unemployed and have been unemployed, regardless of whether they've stopped looking for whatever reason or given up hope, or they're just recently unemployed. They're still not working. So
219-845-1100. It is Monday, August 1st of 2011, the first day, and we'll get some excellent weather coming our way, but it's a little warm, but a lot of sunshine headed our way. 219-845-1100. What do you guys think? Here's the deal. What if these companies, private companies, start saying, hey, you know, I don't want people who've been out of work more than 6 months. They're not as productive, and maybe there's a reason they're out of work or whatever it is. Can they do that? Have you been out of work for more than 6 months? If you've been out of work a long time, call us right now at 219-845-1100. Hey, George, how are you?
This is Jean.
Jean, I'm sorry.
That's the wrong number.
Okay.
Well, you know, I've been underemployed for quite some time, but unemployed for a while, and I can't tell you how many resumes I sent out. And, you know, it's like not only, you know I have an excellent credit rating, but not only do they now look at how long you've been unemployed, but they also look at your credit rating. And, you know, it's like the longer people are unemployed, maybe their credit rating's going down too.
Sure.
So, you know, so it's like you're really damned if you do, if you're unemployed, you know, regardless of what kind of work or work history you've had. And, you know, and for Stephen to say, you know, go ahead and do it, but just don't say it publicly. So so I guess you're okay with it if you say that.
Well, how I meant that, ma'am, was the employer has the prerogative to hire whoever he or she wants to hire.
Well, that's
and
true.
If that's what they're going to do, you and I talking, that's not going to change your mindset. But I just don't think it's right for them to publicly come out and say this is how they do it. I never knew that's how they do it.
It's kind of like, well, so it's better just to do it under the table, is what you're saying. So to have a discussion about whether it's okay to do it or not. Well, we know it's legal for them to do it, but it's like, so let's just hide who we really are and not tell people that we don't care about the unemployed, is what I'm hearing.
I don't appreciate them doing what they're doing, but it's not illegal for them to do that.
No, that's what I said. It's not illegal, but why do you want them to keep it quiet? Just so that somebody doesn't look at them badly? I think it's a discussion that should be out in the open, and they'll probably not have it out in the open much longer.
Well, that's why I brought it out here, for people to talk about.
Okay, I'm going to listen.
All right, thanks a lot. I mean, it's you know what? When people have been out of work or underemployed for a long time, it's a very emotional time.
Of course. All I'm saying, Jimmy, is it's not illegal for them to do that. And if they're going to continue doing it, that's their prerogative. I can't stop that.
Well,
it's not right. I don't condone it, but I
whole
can't say
hiring
it's illegal.
process. I mean, when people send in resumes, a company has 50 I'm just going to use numbers because but if, let's say they got 50 resumes, they've got one job. Is it not the prerogative of the interviewer to hire the person they feel is best suited? Now, there's a lot of factors that go into that person's decision. We're not always privy to them. What are they looking for? Is it and sometimes it's appearance, sometimes it's attitude, sometimes a piece of paper doesn't just state something. They're looking at what that individual says, how they carry themselves, what's going on in that interview. And truly it does come down to personal choice.
Okay.
And
all right,
is it right or wrong? You could put a lot of statements out there and says it's wrong that a person would be disqualified for any particular reason, but it doesn't make it illegal. I guess that's where Steve is saying.
Well, what about you personally? I mean, you get a stack of resumes and you say, all right, well, sift out everybody who hasn't been working for 6 months. Boom,
Here,
done.
Let me say something.
Is that okay? Can we allow that?
In 1969, no, that's when I got out of the Marine Corps. In 1970, I was a manager for a general finance office, a loan company. Okay, I was recruited by an ex-general finance manager to go into credit life, and we basically placed finance and insurance managers in car dealerships and banks. Okay, now I was given orders at that point, or about 2 years later, I was made supervisor in that company, and I did the recruiting. We did not take resumes. We called loan companies and took employees, people that had jobs. So we recruited from the working force, not running ads in the paper. So this is not something that's new. This is something that's been going on for a long time.
Okay, well, answer my question. What do you think? You think it's right? If you get you're a private company, you can do whatever you want. You can hire whatever you want. But of course, there are guidelines. In other words, you couldn't take all your resumes and say, sift out all the Polish people.
Right.
You can't do that. I mean, that's illegal. You get sued, and you get real problems. So you can't take all your resumes and say, you know what? Hey, I know we're looking to hire 10 people for our accounting firm. Hey, take out all the people that are in wheelchairs. Can't do it. Can't do it. Can't even. You better interview them.
Sure.
Otherwise, you're going to have an issue. You may not have to hire them. If you're interviewing everybody else, you better interview them.
That's right.
Okay. Now all of a sudden, can you say, take out all? Here's a stack of people we're hiring. I don't want anybody that hasn't been working for 6 months or more. I don't know. I think you got an issue of what is fair and what is not fair.
Well, it's not fair, and the practice is not right. But again, it's getting back to the premise I was making. It's not illegal. It's up to that employer's decision.
That's the point. The man in the wheelchair, there's a law against it. So if it should be illegal for you to state that because you're unemployed for 6 months you're not qualified, then there has to be a law to make it illegal. It's not that it's not that it's right, but it's not illegal to do.